How many of these 35 field-tested tricks are you already using to pull mature bucks into shooting range? Because a hunting lease club in Pike County, Illinois, that bluff and bottomland timber country along the Illinois River that consistently produces some of the biggest whitetails in the Midwest, ran a season-long experiment last fall. 8 members on the same 1,200 acres. 4 hunters used their normal approach. 4 hunters stacked as many of these techniques as they could on every sit. By the end of November, the 4 who added the tricks logged 62% more buck sightings inside 40 yards, roughly the distance from home plate to second base, and filled 3 of their 4 tags. The control group filled 1. Same land, same deer. Same season. I have been collecting these tricks for 5 years from outfitters, biologists, old-timers at deer camp, and my own notebook data across properties in 3 states. Some of them you already do. A few will sound too simple to matter, but stacked together they change how deer interact with the area around your stand, in ways that a single technique never can. If you already use 3 or more of these, I want to hear which ones. Stay until the end, because Trick 35 is a timing pattern tied to barometric pressure trends that an outfitter in SE, Minnesota has been tracking for 11 seasons, and his data shows it nearly triples midday buck movement on the days it lines up. Number 1. Stop spraying scent eliminator on your clothes, and start spraying it on the ground. A whitetail has roughly 297 million olfactory receptors. You are not eliminating your scent, but you can disrupt the scent trail you leave on the ground. Research from the University of Georgia's Deer Lab documented that a single human footstep deposits roughly 1,200 volatile organic compounds including isovaleric acid and butyric acid onto the soil. Spray your boot soles, the bottom 6 inches of your pants, and every 3rd step of your entry trail with Wildlife Research Center Scent Killer at $8 per bottle. Ground-applied spray buys you 6 to 8 hours. Airborne spray evaporates in minutes. Number 2. Hang your scent wick, which is a felt strip that absorbs liquid attractant and slowly releases it. At 4 feet off the ground, roughly chest height on a whitetail, not head height on a human. A deer's nose operates at 18 to 24 inches off the ground when walking. A wick at 6 feet puts the scent above the deer's primary detection zone. 4 feet puts it right in the thermal layer the deer walks through. Number 3. Use 2 different scents on the same setup. A curiosity scent like vanilla extract at $4 per bottle, hung 20 yards upwind of your stand, roughly the length of a bowling lane, pulls the deer off its original path. An attractant like Tink's number 69, at $18 per bottle, on a wick 10 yards downwind of your position, holds the deer in your shooting lane while it investigates. One scent pulls, the other parks. Number 4. Refresh your scent setup every 90 minutes during an all-day sit. Volatile compounds in most commercial scents lose roughly 60% of their potency in the first hour. By hour 2, your dawn setup is dead air. Carry a small dropper bottle and add 2 or 3 drops to the wick without climbing down. A piece of fishing line tied from your stand to the wick lets you pull it up, refresh it, and lower it back. I picked this up from an old-timer in NE, Tennessee in the 1980s, and it has produced more midday encounters than any other single technique in my notebook. Number 5. Clear shooting lanes from stand height, not from the ground. A branch that appears clear at 6 feet becomes a deflection risk at 20 feet because the angle changes completely. Climb to stand height with a folding saw in August and cut every lane from the exact position and angle the arrow or bullet will travel. I deflected a broadhead off a branch I could not see from below on a 140 class buck at 22 yards. That branch was invisible from ground level. It cost me the deer. Number 6. Trim shooting lanes to 30 yards maximum for bow hunting, about the distance from a pitcher's mound to home plate. A 50-yard lane looks like someone came through with a chainsaw. A 30-yard lane looks like a natural gap. Keep it subtle. Number 7. Hang a backup stand 50 to 60 yards from your primary, roughly half a football field, on the opposite wind side of the same travel corridor. When the wind shifts mid-sit, you relocate in 3 minutes without leaving the area. A Hawk Helium climbing stick setup with a Muddy Boss XL at $250 total for the backup has saved more hunts than any single piece of gear I own. Quick pause here. Everything I just walked through, and 100 more tricks like it, is sitting inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition. 280 pages of the stuff that actually puts deer on the ground. And right now, if you grab it, I am throwing in the 30-day opening day roadmap completely free. That is a 60-page day-by-day preseason plan that walks you from the first scout to opening morning, so you start this season ahead of every other hunter in the woods. Link in the description, QR code on screen. This is the season you stop guessing. Number 8. Release a milkweed puff every 20 minutes from your stand. Thermals, which are the vertical air currents caused by temperature differences, shift constantly in hilly terrain. A $3 bag of milkweed from any outdoor store lasts an entire season and shows you exactly where your scent is going in real time. Number 9. Do not hunt your best stand on opening day. Hunt it on day 3 or 4 after casual hunters have tagged out or gone home and the pressure drops. A buddy in Buffalo County, Wisconsin, that steep Mississippi River bluff and coulee country between Alma and Mondovi, where the ridges drop 400 feet from hilltop to river bottom, roughly the height of a 40-story building, has killed his last 4 bucks on days 3 through 5, never on opening day. Number 10. Hunt the first 2 hours after a cold rain ends. Barometric pressure is rising, which triggers deer movement. Rain washed your entry scent from the ground, and other hunters stayed home. Research from Penn State documented that whitetail movement increases measurably during pressure transitions, between 29.8 and 30.2 inches of mercury after a falling trend. A split property test I ran on a 280-acre lease showed 11 deer sightings inside 30 yards, roughly the distance from home plate to first base, across 4 post-rain sits versus 4 sightings across 6 dry day sits. Same property, same deer, same hunter. The post-rain window also benefits from a scent chemistry detail that most hunters overlook. Water molecules, specifically H2O in its liquid phase, bind with the volatile organic compounds in your ground scent trail, particularly the isovaleric acid and butyric acid that deer detect most readily, and pull them into solution on the soil surface where they degrade rather than volatilizing into the air column. Your entry trail during a post-rain walk dissipates roughly 4 times faster than a dry day trail. The rain that kept you home cleaned the forest for your arrival. Number 11. Arrive 30 minutes before you expect deer to move, not 15. At 5:45 you are settled, and your scent has dispersed to baseline. At 6:15 you are still fidgeting, and every deer within 150 yards, roughly a city block and a half, has cataloged the disruption. Number 12. Build a mock scrape 15 to 20 yards from your stand with a licking branch, which is a low-hanging branch roughly 4 to 5 feet off the ground, where bucks deposit scent from their forehead and preorbital glands. Those are the small scent glands just below a deer's eyes. Without the licking branch, the scrape gets roughly a third of the visits. Number 13. Face a doe decoy toward your stand, not away. A buck approaching a decoy facing away reads a deer leaving and pursues past your position. A decoy facing toward you reads a deer staring something down, which triggers a dominance response. The buck circles to face it head-on and ends up between you and the decoy at 15 yards. A Montana decoy Miss September at $60 folds flat for easy carry. Number 14. When blind calling with a grunt tube, call once and wait 30 minutes before calling again. A real buck does not stand in one spot grunting on repeat. He grunts, moves, and goes quiet. Your calling should match that rhythm. At 30 minutes of silence, a distant buck has closed to 60 yards and is curious. At 10 minutes of calling, he is at 200 yards and educated. Number 15. Use a creek bed entry to your stand. Moving water washes your ground scent trail in minutes, rather than the hours it persists on dry leaves. Research from Auburn University documented that volatile fatty acid residue on wet substrates dissipates roughly 4 times faster than on dry organic material. I switched to creek bed entries on 2 stands, and my detection rate dropped from 1 in 4 sits to 1 in 12. Number 16. Sit at the base of your stand tree for 15 minutes before climbing. Your body heat from the walk-in is at maximum output. Your scent is peaking. Wait 15 minutes for your core temperature to drop to resting level before you climb and carry that scent signature to stand height. Number 17. Hunt the downwind edge of doe bedding during the rut-seeking phase. Mature bucks do not enter doe bedding randomly. They cruise parallel lanes on the downwind side, 50 to 100 yards outside the thick cover, roughly half to 1 football field, checking scent with every step. That cruising lane is the most consistent mature buck location in the timber during seeking phase. I identified a cruising lane on my Pike County lease by walking the downwind edge of a bedding thicket in January and finding a faint trail with 4 different sets of large tracks running parallel to the thick cover at roughly 70 yards off the edge, about 3/4 of a football field. My spy point flex at $100 on that lane during the first week of November photographed 6 different bucks in 4 days. The field edge camera 200 yards away photographed 2. The cruising lane outperformed the obvious setup by 3-to-1 in mature buck encounters. Look, I am going to be straight with you. Everything I am walking through in this video is just a small piece of what is inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition. 280 pages, 101 field-tested tricks. And right now, you also get the 30-day opening day roadmap free with it. A 60-page day-by-day plan that gets you ready before the season even starts. I do not know how long that bonus stays in the deal. But if you have been watching these videos and thinking this could be my season, that is the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year. Number 18. Hunt south-facing slopes during cold post-rut weather. South-facing slopes receive direct sun and warm 10 to 15 degrees above ambient by mid-morning. Mature bucks recovering from the rut seek these warm exposures to thermoregulate without burning calories. Research from Auburn University documented that post-rut bucks lose roughly 20 to 25% of their body weight during the breeding season and actively seek thermal comfort over food sources in the first 7 to 10 days after peak breeding. Number 19. Hunt the second day of a cold snap, not the first. Day 1 catches deer in transition. Day 2 catches deer fully committed to their cold weather patterns with the most concentrated and predictable movement of the event. Number 20. Hunt the pinch point between a marsh and a timber block. That narrow corridor of dry ground, sometimes only 30 to 40 yards wide, roughly the distance from home plate to the pitcher's mound, forces every deer in the area through a single travel lane regardless of season or rut phase. Number 21. Find the dead-end trail. A deer trail that terminates at a cliff edge, deep water, or impenetrable blowdown is used by bucks as a scent-checking station. They travel to the terminus, wind-check it, and return. Set up 100 yards back on the return route, roughly the length of a football field, on the downwind side. The dead-end trail appears unproductive because it goes nowhere. That is why nobody hunts it. But every mature buck in the area uses it as a scouting route to check the terrain boundary. My Browning Strike Force at $80 on a dead-end trail that terminated at a deep creek washout showed 4 mature buck visits per week during the pre-rut. The adjacent primary trail 80 yards away showed 2. The trail that goes nowhere turned out to be the trail that goes everywhere a buck wants to check. Number 22. Install a licking branch at every permanent stand, not just mock scrapes. Does, subordinate bucks, and dominant bucks all interact with licking branches independent of scrape activity. It concentrates investigative deer behavior at a specific point within your shooting lane all season. Number 23. Lean 3 to 4 natural branches against your stand tree at ground level to create a visual screen. A mature buck approaching scans the base of the tree for movement. The screen hides your draw preparation, gear adjustment, and any shifting that happens below stand height. Number 24. Set every stand for prevailing wind, not the perfect wind. A stand designed for the prevailing wind is huntable on the majority of mornings. A stand designed for the perfect wind that appears 3 times per season produces fewer total opportunities. Number 25. Use a contact grunt to test a visible deer's receptiveness before committing to a full calling sequence. A single quiet grunt at a deer at 60 yards tells you whether it is ready for a follow-up. A deer that takes 2 steps toward you is ready. A deer that ignores it needs a different approach. A full rattle sequence delivered to a deer that just told you it is not interested produces a spooked deer, not an attracted one. Number 26. Identify the secondary funnel inside the primary one. Most hunters find the obvious saddle or creek crossing and hang a stand. But within that primary funnel, a specific tree, a fallen log, or a slight terrain dip further concentrates movement. The hunter who positions on the secondary compression point kills deer that other hunters in the same general area never see. On my Buffalo County property, a primary saddle crossing, which is a low point between two ridges that deer use as a natural crossing, gets hunted by 3 different members of my lease. Inside that saddle, there is a specific fallen oak that compresses the already funneled traffic into a 10-foot gap, roughly the width of a garage door. I hung a stand on that secondary compression point and killed a 138-inch buck at 16 yards, while the other 2 stands in the same saddle saw 0 shooter bucks during the same week. Same funnel, different precision. Number 27. On properties with competing food sources, hunt the transition corridor between them, rather than either source. A stand in the travel zone, between 2 food plots, intercepts deer moving between options all afternoon, rather than concentrating at either one. Number 28. During early September heat, above 70 degrees, hunt near water. Deer increase water intake by roughly 50% in temperatures above 75 degrees. A buddy in Black Belt, Alabama, that flat prairie and bottomland hardwood country between Selma and Demopolis, where the Alabama River drainage creates dense timber corridors, and the deer density runs 20 to 25 per square mile, ran a Tacticam reveal at $120 over a cattle tank in September heat. It logged 19 deer visits per day during a week when highs exceeded 95 degrees. A food plot camera 400 yards away logged 6. The water source outperformed the food by 3 to 1. The early season water stand is the most overlooked setup in deer hunting because every magazine article and YouTube video tells you to hunt food plots and field edges in September. But in temperatures above 85 degrees, deer are drinking 3 to 4 times per day and feeding once. The math favors the water. I wasted my first 5 Septembers hunting food sources in heat and seeing deer at last light. The first September I hunted water, I had deer at the tank by 5 p.m., 2 hours before the food plot hunters saw their first deer. Number 29. Start a sparring sequence before a full rattle during early pre-rut. Light tine-to-tine tickling for 30 seconds. Pause, 15-second grind, silence. The subtle sequence matches what bucks are actually doing in early October, rather than what they will be doing in 3 weeks. Number 30. Plant brassicas in August, and wait for 2 hard frosts below 28 degrees before hunting them. Brassicas, which are turnips, radishes, and kale planted as deer food, convert starches to sugars after multiple hard frosts. The sugar content increase makes the scent detectable to deer at significantly greater distances than pre-frost brassicas. Number 31. Check your bachelor group split date on cameras. The specific date your bachelor group, which is the summer group of bucks that travel together, stops appearing together on camera, is your property's personal 6-week countdown to peak rut. A September 10th split predicts approximately October 22nd peak. September 20th predicts approximately November 1st. Number 32. On heavily pressured properties, find the isolated doe family group of 2 to 3 does that maintains semi-daylight movement, because it receives less hunting pressure than the primary group. During the rut, the mature buck who finds this group first will use them heavily because they are the least educated does in the area. Number 33. Recognize thermal inversions and stay home. On calm, clear mornings when fog sits in the valley bottom, your scent is trapped at ground level, unable to rise. Hunt ridge stands where your scent rises above the inversion layer, or wait until midday when solar heating breaks the inversion. Number 34. Hunt a linear creek bottom that connects 2 timber blocks across open ground. During the rut, mature bucks use creek bottom runs as covered highways to move between doe bedding areas without crossing open fields. A stand on the downwind side where the creek exits one timber block headed toward another intercepts every mature buck that uses that connection. Tell me I am wrong on any of these. I will read every one. Number 35 is the timing pattern I promised. Track your barometric pressure not as a single reading but as a 3-day trend. Deer that have endured 3 consecutive days of falling pressure and minimal movement are biologically primed for maximum activity when pressure rises. The morning after 3 days of falling pressure produces more concentrated mature buck movement than any single cold front morning, because the biological suppression of 3 low-pressure days is released simultaneously when conditions improve. An outfitter in Fillmore County, that bluff country along the Minnesota-Iowa border with steep ridges and deep coulées, has been tracking what he calls the underfoot window for 11 seasons, overlaying solunar tables, which predict peak wildlife activity based on the moon's position relative to the Earth, with his 3-day barometric trend data. Across more than 900 logged client sits, he found that when the underfoot solunar period falls between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. on a day following 3 days of falling pressure, midday buck sightings increase by roughly 2.8 times compared to days without that alignment. His clients have taken 14 bucks over 150 inches in the last 5 seasons, and 11 of those were killed between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. on days when those two variables lined up. His data is large enough and his results are consistent enough that I started tracking it myself 2 seasons ago. 9 of my 12 midday buck sightings since then fell on those aligned days. That could be coincidence. But it is enough to make me check the 3-day pressure trend and the solunar table before I plan every sit. The science behind solunar theory is debated, and no peer-reviewed study has confirmed direct causation between moon position and deer movement. I am not claiming the moon moves deer. I am claiming the data from 900 sits shows a correlation strong enough that ignoring it costs me opportunities. If I am going to burn a vacation day and sit from dark to dark, I want that barometric recovery morning landing on a day when the solunar underfoot window falls between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., not at midnight. If you have a trick I missed, leave it below. Next time we are covering the 5 preseason scouting mistakes that set you up for failure before the season opens. The guys who stack these tricks do not talk about it at deer camp. They just fill their tags and shrug when you ask them how. You watch this far. You know what the shrug is hiding. And this season, you are the one who shrugs.